Welcome back to Two Cents from Millennial. I'm your host Jarvis, and today we have our co-host Ashwin. He's also studying currently in Munich. We are non-native English speaking millennials that are either studying or working abroad. So in this episode, we will share our 2 cents regarding the latest war between Russia and Ukraine, how it is affecting us living in Germany. Also, some experiences regarding how it is like to find an internship or job in the current moment. And lastly, we're going to share our craziest culture shock experiences when we just started the life in Germany. So if you're millennials or if you're studying or working abroad, join us, grab a beer, and let's have some good time. So how's it going, Ashwin?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
I'm fine, man. I remember, let me share this with you. I remember the first time, the first day of the special operation from Russia. And this is the meme you sent it to me, which is hilarious. And right now it's like the 14 days of the special operation. We call it the war, but apparently if you are a citizen of Russia, you cannot say that word. It's pretty similar like what I know if you are Chinese people, right? And this is kind of ironic, let's put it this way.
The audio only listeners, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to tune in to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can check in our YouTube channel or even Patreon. We're gonna share this in the video form. So Ashwin, do you find anything that's affected you, or what news that you noticed just after this almost 2 weeks war? Anything you find out when you are...
Well, hey, I mean, nothing directly affecting me, obviously, because I'm not Ukrainian nor Russian.
That's true.
But the one thing I have been hearing about the most is rising energy prices here in Germany, because as you probably know, Germany imports like about a third of energy from
almost half
from Russia.
Yeah.
By Nord Stream, yeah. And they're not cutting back like the US and the UK. The US and the UK have pretty much cut ties with Russia in terms of importing energy. But Germany hasn't, because they're super dependent on Russian energy.
And also because the gas pipe was already built up for years, and
Nord Stream,
yeah, so that's like the cheapest and the most efficient way they could come up with. But nobody think it's gonna be a potential problem to be too dependent on the Russian supply. So it's kind of screwing us right now, as we are expected to have double the heater's price like at the end of this year. I saw that news today, and to be honest, I don't know what's my rent pay is gonna see next week though. Is it affecting your rent pay? Does your landlord tell you anything about that? Or
no, I don't think we'll see the effect now, maybe in a few months, but we will definitely see the effects in terms of fuel, in terms of gas prices.
Yeah, for sure.
That's as it already
everyone.
is.
Yes,
gas prices is phenomenally high.
Also,
in Munich and Germany in general.
I noticed that Putin actually bring this war at the very bad time, because we were kind of at the stage where we are about to come back from the COVID quarantine, because since 2020 we were studying here and basically everything is online. We've been locked down, there's no activities out there, and now it comes like another devastating situation. It's gonna be another hit for our future price tag, I would say.
Just when you think it's gonna get better, this comes along.
This is like another hit. So I don't know, man. I feel like this is gonna be reflecting into the taxpayer in Germany in general, because as long as there's a increase in the money supply in your central bank during the COVID, we all know that the German government, they actually have so much support for the local businesses.
For some reason, despite Germany's huge amounts of government spending, we're not seeing insanely high inflation like the US, right?
Yeah.
The US is like what, 11% now? It's
Also, the unemployment rate of the Germany is like 3.2. As I remember this, I checked that early. Today is actually the lowest in a well-developed Western country. The most impressive part of Germany is low unemployment rate. So
yeah,
I remember last time you were talking about you were also looking for some green energy job or internship, right?
yeah,
And now everything goes backward. Like we are back to the oil supply, massive demand
yeah.
situation.
That's true. I mean, I did remember reading about this article
Mhm.
where essentially it said that Germany intends on becoming 100% renewable by 2050. But
Exactly.
now, because of this whole fiasco, this whole war, I think they've shortened it to 2035. So their new goal is to be energy dependent by 2035. What do you think about that?
Well, if they have to fix, only if they could fix how to make sure there's no shortage of the supply from the current gas pipeline. I remember one of my German friends, before the war actually started, they were terrified. They would say this is gonna be a big problem in Germany, and as a German citizens, it's not gonna be good. It's gonna like hurt their income. It's gonna hurt their saving. They're gonna spend more. And my friend is actually at the age of about to retire. So imagine you're at the age about the retirement, and this all the costs is starting to pile up, and you don't have more income resources, and pension funds of the German government is just limited. Let's say.
Yeah. This has the potential to crush all your retirement
savings and your retirement plan devastated. Oh yeah, this is also pretty funny because I remember I think it's 2020 when Donald Trump was the US president. He was talking about a lot the NATO expenses, military expenses in Germany is not enough, and that kind of triggered him to pull off all the troops from US from Germany. So, do you recognize that, or have you came across that topic before?
Yep. They pulled out the troops from Germany. Yep, I remember that.
So do you think that's the right decision, or it's just because Donald Trump is too egoistic to do the right things? What's your two cents?
I'm not an expert on this, but yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't really see the need for so many US soldiers to be in Germany. I felt like they could be in different places or no places.
So this is the news from 2020.
Okay, yeah, 12,000 troops.
12,000 troops. Donald Trump called it strategic move, but I guess what he has in mind is that screw everyone here. The taxpayer in U.S. government is spending way too much to protect the people who are dependently on Russia's gas supply, and I think that's his intention. I might be wrong, but this is what we found out that Trump says. You guys are being controlled. You guys get hostile by the Russian, but you didn't notice that. And we're spending our taxpayers' money to send troops in order to protect you guys, and that kind of doesn't make sense. So well, I mean, it's kind of controversy to talk about Donald Trump in general. But what do you think?
So I remember I showed you that video of that podcast with Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, it's like 2 days
so
ago,
let me
right?
just let me just set the scene for the viewers. So about 2 days ago there was a podcast, and it was done by these pranksters. These pranksters somehow got Donald Trump himself to come on their podcast. Like, they have never done anything like this before, so it was a big deal for them. And Donald Trump, started talking about good old-fashioned Donald Trump things, but he did mention something that was kind of peculiar. So I think back in 2019, 2018, Donald Trump had essentially told Angela Merkel to stop importing so much of Russian gas and Russian oil. And Angela Merkel essentially brushed the whole thing off. And I cannot confirm this part because, Donald Trump said it, but according to him, he gifted Angela Merkel a white flag. And when she was like, yo, what is this supposed to mean?
What does that mean?
And then he said, "Oh, this is when Russia gets hostile, then you can use this." I hate to say it, but I feel like he kind of hit the nail on the head, because now we are so dependent on a country that, you know, on a government perhaps that we don't want to be dependent on.
Exactly. So you don't have the national defense, the military that you're supposed to guard your home country, plus the economy or your necessary resources is being controlled by the people that you don't want to be controlled. So
yeah,
that's the situation.
Yeah, it's just really risky to be dependent on a government that you really don't
trust or
or you're just not morally compatible with,
or just like you don't have enough knowledge like what the hell Putin is thinking about in general.
Yeah, the whole thing is very volatile.
And I feel sorry for the Ukrainian people. It's
for sure, yeah.
So devastating to see the kids and the hospitals being bombarded by the airstrike. So to be honest, I feel the biggest problem, because last time on the first episode when I was having the conversation with Ivan, he said about during the wartime there's no right or wrong, but if media says someone is right or someone is wrong, then that guy becomes the right or wrong. What do you think about that take?
Yeah, I agree.
You agree?
The media writes the narrative and they run with it forever. It's really hard to change something once they've kind of set a particular narrative.
So you're saying we should not trust the media because there's only one side of the perspective?
No, I would say it's better if you get your information from a
sources?
multitude. Yeah, from multiple sources, So at least you can be informed. Even if you are wrong, at least you're informed.
You have more well-rounded understanding. So that's one of the reason I remember last time when we were having discussion in Ivan's point of view. He said back in the days 1999, Bill Clinton, when he was the president of the US, NATO was bombing Serbia just because they think there's terrorists, there's a nuclear threat, this and that. But media is saying nothing at all. So nobody's actually care, because as long as the media start to pointing fingers or labeling someone, and majority of the people that don't have time or resources to reach multiple resources, it's easily to be manipulated.
In general, I think Western media, with a few exceptions like Al Jazeera
or Guardian,
yeah, they pretty much dominate what you hear and see.
Oh yeah, so I guess that's also the reason why Donald Trump get banned across all the news and social media, because he has some problem. But right now, if we look back into this situation, it made some point that's obvious. It could be the potential problem, but I guess people doesn't take it too seriously or just think that's not gonna happen, I would say.
Yeah, you know what? A few days ago, I heard this quote from Denzel Washington. Do you know Denzel?
Yeah.
A very famous actor, yep.
Absolutely.
He said, basically, if you do read the news, you're misinformed. But if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. So I guess that pretty much sums up what's happening with media today.
That's a really good put. So better to get more information in multiple resources, and don't believe whatever you see on the internet or on the TV. It might screw your life, because we're living in the world that propaganda, fake news is everywhere. So this is, especially in the wartime, a lot of misinformation saying this and that. A lot of people trying to make a statement that only gonna catch people's attention, but doesn't care about whether it's facts or whether it's gonna hurt people or not. And this is kind of sad.
Yep.
We don't know how this is gonna develop at the time when you are watching or listening to this video. I hope everything is gonna be all right, but I would like to share a piece of information that might be very helpful for Ukrainian people. If you are leaving or trying to relocate, find a new job, this is what I found on LinkedIn earlier today. This is the initiative, I think is hosted by some guy who know how to help the Ukrainian people trying to find a new job, and especially like right now, a bunch of people are open up vacant just because if you are actually trying to find a new job outside of Ukraine and you probably come to Germany or other countries, these are the company that you can look it up. So the website is called www.uatalents.com. www.uatalents.com. If you have friends or if you have any family members, friends that really need this piece of information, please share to them, and that could be a good help. And that's, I think, the minimum we could do to support the people who are suffering right now after this war. So speaking about this finding job situation, how's your career finding or internship finding right now in Germany, Ashwin?
Oh, I keep coming very close.
Tell me something more.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell you about my experience trying to job hunt.
How long have you keep
here in
searching for internship or job hunting?
Well, I've been doing it on and off. I've been trying 2019, in the end of 2019, that's where I kind of was trying. Really bad place to start trying because a few months later, you know, COVID hit. But actually in 2019, December, I had gotten a 3-month internship in the States, in Santa Fe. And I was super excited, but then March came along and they had essentially canceled all visas going into the US. Right, so that was a bummer.
So
and then
it's at the end of the 2019 before the 2020, right? So I think that's the time when the COVID is just started.
Yeah, I was scheduled to go and start working in, I think, the summer, in June or July. And then around, I remember the day, I think it was March 15th, yeah? When the US finally conceded, okay, this might be actually serious. And then they
everything goes to shit. Yeah,
and then everything went to shit. They started canceling visas, and all the appointments that I had for like the whole visa process was canceled.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, well, screw it. I guess I'll just try to find an internship in Germany. Right. So I did a short, quick internship in marketing around September in 2020. It was all completely online from home.
Okay. How does it went though?
It was not bad, but I just found the marketing tasks that I was given kind of boring.
Okay.
So from then on, I stopped applying for marketing jobs. And when I say jobs, I mean working student / internship positions. Yeah, because that's really all I'm going for at the moment.
The biggest challenges you are facing, or you're either getting their interview or during the interview so far?
I've actually had a few decent interviews that I've gotten, but yeah, I guess it really just boils down to your personality in a lot of ways, especially if you're in business, because what a lot of teams are looking for is a good cultural fit. Yeah. So let's say you're in tech, you're a programmer. That doesn't really matter because they're looking for someone with a certain set of skills, like hard skills. So it doesn't really matter what type of person you are. You could be extremely introverted or whatever, but as long as you have the skills that they need, they will hire you. But in the whole business field, it's completely different. A cultural fit is very important for them. Yep. And this is what I've noticed, because I've gotten the second interviews a few times.
Okay.
And they still like me. Yeah, like they were still pretty outgoing,
chill,
and they were like speaking to me as if I was already a part of the team. But at the end, it didn't go through because someone else, was a better fit, and that's the word they keep using, a better fit.
I know, right?
They will not really tell you, oh, this person had
something
a few
better,
more years,
this and that. Yeah, I mean, this is also my personal experiences because I'm currently also finding an internship or working student before I actually graduated. So I just keep receiving rejected letter. They say we just always have the better fit, and so we're not going to process the current application process. But in Germany, probably if you're a listener outside of Germany, you probably didn't know that in Germany, you have the right to request for the interviewer to asked them what didn't go well and why was the reason I was not being considered. And so I actually did this. And the funny thing is, like, multiple vague messages that's all they give out to me. They say this is because the situation fits into more other people's profile instead of yours, so that's the reason you're not qualified. But I guess in this situation is more about, I want to know what are my shortage and what could be improved in general for the future application, this and that. But apparently, I guess you could never find out. You could never find it out, like, what is the real problem to not impress them, right?
Yeah, they will never be 100% honest with you. They will just give you a vague reason just so that you can leave them alone.
I feel also sorry for these HR people, because in this situation, this HR person, they cannot either just completely ignore the request, nor he could just say something harmful into your face. So this kind of like the alternative, right? And that's all they could do. So if you are not qualified, if you're not being accepted, I'm just gonna like copy and paste all the same stuff. I guess that's the strategy.
Yeah, so a lot of the times the HR department will do the dirty work. Yep. They just get the feedback from the upper management, and then they
follow
send
the work.
you the rejection letters and whatnot.
Based on the time frame you are keep applying for internship or working student. Have you find anything that's unique or special or funny? Any stories?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a few stories. Well, it really just boils down to just bad luck and bad timing, also because of Corona. But there is this one time I had secured a second interview with SAP.
Nice.
And this was for project management internship.
Okay.
So the first interview, it went really well. Yep. I had gotten confirmation for the second interview in just a few minutes. So once the first interview concluded, I got the next invite link in my email just a few minutes later.
Just a few minutes.
And I was like, yes.
That's
and
very
I was
professional.
so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And then I did my second interview about 2 to 3 days later. And then that interview, it also went good, not too bad, but the people who had interviewed me were from Canada and not based in Germany. But the position was for Germany, obviously, for Munich. Yeah. So that interview finished, and then they told me that they're in a hurry to conclude this whole hiring process, and they will get back to me as soon as next week.
Oh, okay. That's fast.
And they never did. They just completely ghosted me. I called the HR person a bunch of times. They said, oh yeah, we'll get back to you, and just give a bunch of shitty excuses. But I guess I don't know if that was like a loophole, because as you mentioned, if like you have the right to ask why you were cut. But does it really apply for someone in Canada? So yeah, that was
I feel like this is complicated. I have similar stories, because I remember I was also applying, also a working student position as well, and the people says, I'm very interested in your profile, so let's set up a web meeting, a short web meeting, so we know each other together. And I say cool, and he asked me like which day preferred, what's the time. I gave her my time frame and which date, and then she just ghosted me, like until the day and until the day after what we're supposed to have the meeting. And she was like, oh sorry, we are holding this position right now for whatever reason, I can't really recall. Also, I have another one which is also pretty frustrated, is that just because the start of the Ukraine and Russia beef, and he says, oh, I got a hiring freeze right now, so we're not able to expand any further hiring process. So this is, I don't know, this is just, it's so weird for me. But I don't know, man. Ashwin, let's say if you're the HR of the company, especially in Germany company, what would be criteria you're mainly looking while finding a working student or internship?
Well, I did mention how the HR does look for a good cultural fit. They will kind of gauge your personality. I wouldn't say get rid of that completely, just hire the most qualified person. I do think, especially in business roles, your personality does play a huge part. But I think sometimes, from at least in my experience, I noticed is they like to belong to their little club, and they like to like hire people just like them. Yeah, so they will set aside some of the qualifications if they really like you personality-wise. Yeah.
So you're suggesting to kind of having the balance between not just having the club, but also qualify more about the skill set.
Yeah, they should put a little more emphasis on the skills. But again, this is just my experience in the working student / internship positions that I've been looking at.
I actually found out something that's also quite interesting. Is like currently a lot of the job has been transformed into only the working student or internship position instead of full-time position. Probably because the algorithm fucked me up on LinkedIn or something. I don't know. But this is based on my experiences. It's just when you search internship, you could probably get like 200 to even up to 500 results based on what you're looking for, the field you're looking for. So if you switch it to like full-time position, then that's probably going to be less than 100. And this is, I feel like, because the favor of the labor law or hiring an employee here in Germany is way complicated, because if you hire someone with a contract, especially a permanent contract, then you are not easily to get rid of that person. So now company or HR is kind of just using this loophole, trying to just keep hiring something that's temporarily for 6 months, and they could just keep the business running. Meanwhile, they have like new fresh graduate students will applying for all these positions and do the same stuff. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. It's also a way for them to save on costs, because they can just hire an intern, do the same job for much cheaper.
Yeah, also,
and they're not legally bound to have you forever, or whatever the contract states.
Yeah, and they could get rid of you, especially if they are short on the monetary. Because imagine if you are like a full-time permanent contract employee, you have at least, I think, 30 days holiday, and if you don't have enough holiday in 1 year, company will trying to make you to take as much holiday as you could, because if they don't make you to have the holiday, they have to pay you as a compensation. So this is like a big disadvantage for Germany company, especially in the startup thing. Most of the people who just started business doesn't have a lot of resources, and imagine that you got to follow this law requirement, which is kind of outdated in the current world. So it's complicated.
Yep.
We didn't talk about the importance, and I believe if you're in Germany, you have to face this, which is the language skill, the German. Now, what do you think about the importance of speaking German to either get you a job or be fit into this culture or fit into this country?
So if you come over to Germany for studies and you don't speak a word of German, my first advice would probably be to start learning German ASAP, because if you're looking for a position or a full-time position or an internship,
or just you want to have a better life in general, quality of life.
Yeah, you're competing with everyone who speaks German. So you're kind of handicapped, and you can only look at positions which require English. Yeah, and it's much fewer. It's much less than,
of course,
positions that require German.
Yeah, in common sense, that makes sense, because most of the business will probably just serve their domestic country. International companies less in general.
Yeah, exactly. There's just way less international companies than there are local companies. But I do feel like it is changing.
I also agree. I feel like a lot of the company are starting to shift into embracing more international talent, which is fit into our situation. So what was your biggest culture shock when you just come to Germany, though? Have you encountered any biggest culture shock when you just arrived here?
So a lot of the stereotypical culture shocks I had already read about before coming here. Things like Germans like to be on time, and if you're like even a minute late, that's a bad look for you. So things like that I kind of expected, and they were all true.
You think it's all true?
Yeah.
I kind of disagree on that, though.
in my experience, obviously. But it really depends on the setting. If it's a professional environment, obviously you want to be on time.
Oh yeah, I
Like
mean,
you
in
don't
the
want to risk
business
it.
environment, I agree on that. But what I find funny or ironic is when we always say German are always on time, and when we arrive here, we will always see the train or
Oh, okay, that's what you mean.
the
Yeah.
U-Bahn, which is
Okay. Yeah.
the how does that called? Subway station? Subway, yeah, the subway. It's like
U-Bahn,
sometimes just
S-Bahn. Yeah.
delay, sometimes just not come in, sometimes for this and that reason. It's just hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Imagine.
I mean, yeah, but I was really talking about business-wise,
Okay,
in the
yeah, then that
in a
totally
in a
makes sense.
professional setting. Because in my country, from in Dubai and in India, it's if you're late, it's not exactly the best look, but there's not a huge stigma behind being a few minutes late
Mm.
for a meeting. But
Mm-hmm.
if you are in a professional setting and say you come 5 minutes late to an important meeting, it's just not a good look.
Agree.
So
I agree on that. So being professional, being on time is also another way of showing respect and discipline. I agree on that.
yeah.
But have you ever have any culture shock or something that you are not used to it, like in the
So yeah,
first week?
putting aside all the stereotypical
Mm-hmm.
culture shocks that
Mm-hmm.
the average person faces, in my first week here,
Mm.
I was getting a SIM card for my phone.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember going into Vodafone.
Mm.
Yeah, so basically, once you come to Germany and you get a SIM card, you have to identify yourself. I think it's called post-ident. I haven't done that in ages, but that's one of the things you do. And for some reason, I couldn't do it to my phone, so I had to go into the Vodafone store to confirm my identity. Yeah, and for some reason, the guy at the Vodafone place, he didn't know how to do it. And literally, all he told me was, you know what? You should try going to O2. They know how to do things. And I was like, what? So that was the first time I realized that customer service here is pretty bad. Yep. I've heard
Oh.
I've heard a lot of people have very negative experiences with the customer support, and a lot of times they will think that the customer support is racist, which I don't agree with. I just think that they're not wired like American customer service.
Or
It
Asians. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because over there it's like customers king. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over here in Germany, they're more of
The more
like
they don't give a shit.
yeah, they're like facilitators.
They just like I
It's
do my job, and at the time I'm about to leave, and I'm gonna leave.
yeah, so they do their job that's on their job description and nothing more.
Yeah. And what's the most famous phrase that I continuously hear in Germany is "Das ist nicht meine Aufgabe," which is that is
Yeah.
not my business. That
So
is not
yeah,
my
I mean,
work. Yeah.
but naturally, this thing doesn't exist everywhere. It's
Uh,
just much more prevalent in Germany. Yeah.
from
So
my,
when the Vodafone guy told me to go to O2, I was like, that was so strange because
you're so
in
shocked.
most countries, like you
Yeah.
don't
You
give
don't
your
want to lose your
competition
customers.
to other people, like to
Yeah.
other competitors. So yeah, he told me to go to O2, and I've been having an O2 SIM card since.
Huh. That's so weird, but that's a good one. I never expected like people will literally introduce you to their enemy unless they have commission there. Probably, I don't
Yeah.
know. Probably some underground stories. But in
Yeah.
my experiences, I feel like the most culture shocking situation is when we go to the government, which is handling our visa situation. This is the pain in the butt situation. So we have to extend our visa based
Yeah.
on how much time we have left. We have to apply that a month earlier or even 2 months earlier because the bureaucracy here in Germany was just insanely slow. But slow is not the problem. The biggest culture shock I have is that those people who work in the government authority and they're handling the visa, they know that you probably are Ausländer, which is people are foreigners. So what I understand from Asia or in general is that if you are in the authority of the government and you are dealing with the foreign visa application or any task in general, you are more or less likely want to apply in English or in a language that they understand because you understand that they are not local people, right? But
Yeah.
here even the government people, we're not talking about average person, because average person, they have the preference, they have the 2 cents, they don't want to speak in English, totally fine, right? But in government, they insisted to try to talk to you in German. They know you could only speak English, but they will still insist to reply you in German, which you could not understand in the first week when you just landed here if you don't have the German skills already. So I was like super shocked when I was trying to apply my resident permit in the KVR, which is the authority of the government that handle the visa application. They are like, I keep telling her in English, she reply me back in German. I don't understand stuff. I don't understand shit. And then I asked her, can you speak in English? And she could reply me in the German. We were just kind of in, but I noticed that she understands what I'm talking about. So I just keep saying her German and keep saying my English, because I'm trying to be friendly. I want to like, okay, make sure everything is done properly. At the end of the day, at least it is done. That's kind of shocking to me.
But you know what? I will say something positive. Well, this is completely my experience. So if you're, thinking about coming to Germany for university, now there's two things you will need to do, and there's two things that you'll need to be doing often, at least in Germany, if you want to come over. First is registering your address. Yep.
Yeah.
And the second thing is renewing your residence permit. So these two things are the most annoying, and it involves you going into the KVR, which is known for their completely shit customer service.
There's no customer service involved.
Yeah, it's just service in quotations. But for me, I think I've been 100% lucky, or maybe it's the new changes they have made, but this is in the Munich KVR. So if you're a student, you will be going to the student office. Yeah, you won't be going to the regular Ausländerbehörde or like the international office. You'll be going into the student section, and the people there usually speak English. From my experience, they all spoke in English to me, and everything was smooth. And I went to them. I think I go there at least once a year for renewing the
you have
residence permit.
Yeah.
And because I move out of my place once a year, I go there also for registering my new address.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all those times, except maybe one out of like, I don't know, 6-7 times I've been there, it's been pretty much great. Yep. I remember this one time I had failed to register my one apartment because I had lived there only for 3 months. But that doesn't really matter because you have to register no matter what.
Yeah.
So I lived there for 3 months and I went to my new permanent place. And the KVR person was like, yo, you didn't register for like that 3 months. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get so screwed right now. But no, she was, I think she was Japanese based on her name.
Oh.
But she spoke to me in English perfectly. And she essentially registered me in the new place that in the old place that I had stayed, and then deregistered me. And
so
then
she's willing to help you to do the process.
She literally went the extra mile, which I did not expect in the KVR.
You are
I
so
thought,
lucky,
oh
man.
shit, I gotta go back and get new paperwork or whatever. But no, it was fixed right then and there.
I remember last time I was trying to apply my visa extension in the KVR in Mannheim, and before me there was like a girl, I think she is Chinese, and she cannot speak German as well, and she was like standing there not moving. She can't understand the word from the German lady behind the glass, and she was just like so frustrated, and then at that moment she just started crying and was like, what the fuck is going on, right? And then at the last moment, that German lady says, okay, she literally started to use English. Okay, go back to there, I'm gonna come back to you later in 10 minutes. And I was thinking, like, from an observer's point of view, like, why don't you start it in the beginning? Like, what was the point? Aren't you trying to get the work done? But I don't know. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe just because she doesn't feel right. No idea.
And this was in Mannheim?
Yeah, that was in Mannheim KVR. Yeah.
Okay. Because in Munich, I think that they're putting more priority for the student employees to speak English.
Yeah.
So it's becoming easier.
Also,
but I
it's
don't know if
helpful for reduce the loading of the workers, because if you just imagine, if you always assign the work to one person that want to handle like all the refugees, international persons, students, he's gonna burn out 100%. And I guess that's the reason, like, the people who are on that seat always hating the job, so that's why they treat people like shit. And I believe that is true, because if the employee is not being taken care of, then he or she doesn't care about the job, then he would treat whatever people he's accounting like shit, because at the end of the day it's the same.
You know, there's also another thing I've been thinking of regarding places like the KVR or embassies. I noticed that a lot of them are super pissed off 24/7, yeah. And I was beginning to think, like, why is everyone always like pissed off? And I think, okay, this is just my take, and I'm not 100% sure, but I've noticed that a lot of idiots, like, there's no that nice way to put it, but like a lot of idiots, like just like walk in and like just troll. They forgot to fill up like this form or whatever, even though they had mentioned it, like, you need this form, you know, just yeah, just things like that. They deal with people like this on the regular.
Yes.
Yeah, so it kind of desensitizes them from, you know,
I
from
could
being
totally
nice.
relate, and I could also feel sorry for those people who are in that position, because you are literally probably in the first 3 months or 6 months you are enthusiastic trying to, you know, make sure people have quality of life, but after 6 months of bombarded like retarded, then you're starting to be more part of the culture.
Burns you out.
Burns out super easy.
That's the employee you get after a few months of working in the KVR.
Do you have other culture shock or any things that surprise you, like food or, you know, like language, behavior, timing, shop
so here's
opening?
another story. Yeah. First month, I guess.
Yeah.
In Germany, and so from where I'm from in Dubai, yeah, if you close your doors, yeah, it's not closed. You know, you can still open it. Like, you can lock your door. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So that's how it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like that in many countries.
Well, not in Asia. Like, I mean, not in Taiwan. I'm from Taiwan.
Oh, in Taiwan, it's the same in Germany. But you close the door and it shuts for good. Yeah, like you need a key to open it again. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but in Taiwan, it's like, unless you know the owner of the store, or otherwise when they close, then it means close.
For like any residential buildings, the doors, once they shut, you cannot push them out again. Yeah, you need a key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so in Dubai, it's not like that. In Dubai, and even in India, if you close the door, it's not closed. I mean, it's not locked. It's closed, obviously, but you have to lock it with a key, or whatever, like a number pad or whatever the case. So, I mean, I knew about this, but you know, I wasn't used to it, so I locked myself out.
Oh yeah,
and by that I mean
to me
the door,
before as well.
The door shut on me. It just shut. I was like, oh shit. So I had to call my landlord. Yeah. And I didn't realize that day was Easter on the day that I got locked out.
Yeah.
It was a holiday. So I called my landlord and he was pissed. Like, he was so surprised why I would call him on Easter. Like he even told me, like, in English, "Don't you know it's a holiday? Why did you call me?" And I was like, "Whoa, chill, dude. I just want like a spare key." But yeah, I eventually ended up getting the key, and that's when I kind of noticed. In Germany, you don't really call your colleagues on the holidays for anything. Like, work kind of stops. Period.
Yeah.
On a holiday.
It's a time for family. It's time for you yourself, for chill, to, you know, get yourself calm.
And I guess he thought that since I called him, it must have been like something super, super important. Yep.
But it's just like
because he probably never gets calls on holidays, especially on Easter. So and when he picked up and it was me and locking myself out, you know, he was pissed.
So you went to him or he comes to you?
Yeah, he had to come to me, but he doesn't live like far away. It was, I think, a 5-minute drive. But yeah, I felt kind of bad, but you know, that was a good lesson to learn pretty early on.
I remember the first time I also locked myself out in the first time, and I was living in a student apartment, let's say. So the first time I locked myself out, I thought like, oh shit, in Germany, if you lock yourself outside, and they always say is that there's gonna be a special lock that nobody could, trick it or open it in any other way of force or stuff. So all you can do is just call the locksmith. It's gonna cost them for what? At least minimum 100 euro.
Yeah, minimum.
Minimum 100 euro to come to you and open it. And so the first time I locked myself outside of my own dormitory, I was like, oh shit, it's time to spend the money. And I just did it because what I read and what I learned is like, this is the best way to do. But the second time I locked myself outside, and my Hausmeister, which is like the apartment manager, was there. I was like, maybe if any chance that he could help me with that. And I go to him, and he was like, okay, show me your ID, prove that you are the owner. I'll say, yes, I'm this. And then okay, and then he just literally having his like secondary key open it up is like so easy. And I remember also the time when the locksmith come, he was like, he look at the door, and he just like using the really simple easy key, just like put it inside and open it. And that cost me 99 euro. I was so pissed. So after that, I learned one thing. This is a social hack. Be a friend of your Hausmeister. Be a friend of your house apartment management, because it's gonna make your life way easier. And I could add another point on top of this is, in Germany, most of the time, if you're moving out from where you live, you are supposed to refurnish. Let's say you have to paint it, you have to make everything clean, and you have to make sure everything is organized, nothing is broken. So when they come here, they check everything is gonna be fine, or otherwise they will deduct a lot of your deposit because they think, oh, you should have do this, you should have do that, this is not working and that. And so I remember the moment I was about to move out of my apartment, and I talked to my apartment manager, and I say, hey, I know that we probably have to refurnish ourselves, we have to do this and that. What's the normal process? And he says, okay, there's two options. One, you brush yourself, you do everything correctly, and I'm gonna come to check, and if everything is correct, then nothing is gonna happen. And the second option is you probably hire someone else out there come to do the stuff for you. And I asked him, is there any options that I could just ask you to do it for me, and I'll pay you for that, and you're gonna make sure to sign the contract says everything is fine. And he was like, okay, yeah, there's also a possibility for that. Okay, so yes, okay, let's make this deal. I'm gonna pay you 50 euro that it's gonna get covered, the refurnish, the painting, organize everything. I just building the friendship with him. So I didn't lose my deposit, because
that's smart.
I remember so many, especially international students, they get ripped off by all the house manager because they was just like, they painting themselves. They spend like 2 weekends right there painting by themselves. And at the end, they will say, oh, this is not white enough, or this is not gray enough. This part has the dust, and this and that. They lose like 500 to 600 euros just because this and that. So for me, I'd rather like to spend only 50 euro, make sure everything is fine, and instead of getting a rip off.
So talk to your property manager.
And make friends
or
of it.
Hausmeister.
Hausmeister.
Make friends with them. Do what you gotta do.
And that's the social hack. Especially if you're out here alone, don't try to be too smart, because they always have like something to mess around with you. You don't want to deal with that.
Also, speaking about maintenance in your apartment, how annoying do you find kalk?
Cock. Well, not cock. Kalk.
Kalk.
You have to speak in. Is that also in English as well?
I think it's German. Kalk.
Yeah, it's German. K-L-K. Yeah, it's everywhere because the water.
Do you have it in Taiwan?
No, we don't have that.
Yeah. So for us, Yeah, exactly. Like so, like once you wash something and then you dry it,
There's a
or
white stand on top of it.
yeah, the kalk deposits build up over time,
Yeah.
and it's a pain in the ass to clean.
Yeah, you need
Uh,
to you need to have lemonade, vinegar, and sort of stuff to remove it.
Yeah, it just makes maintaining your
And those could actually
toilets
be the
harder.
reason why they remove your deposit. They say it's not clean enough, and you'll be pissed. They just say that because
Yeah,
it's
you really have to clean it like pretty much every time you take a shower or whatever.
yes, and you have to just
gotta clean it.
imagine you take a shower, and what you have to do is like you gotta make sure the shower room is dry after you leave the shower. That's pretty much how insane it is. And that's
Yeah.
like a lot of the German family are actually doing that, especially the older generation. They remove all the water inside the shower so that they won't be the kalk. Don't try to distort my pronunciation. Kalk. On the wall or on the floor in general.
But yeah, super annoying.
Super
Kalk.
Kalk.
If you're trying to come to Germany, just remember you gotta get your maintenance game way up.
Yeah, or you hire someone to do that, or you be friends with the Hausmeister.
Yep.
All right, so the time flies actually pretty fast. We could save some of the topic next time because we still have a lot of topic to share since we have been living here. I met Ashwin since 2018. We started like in the international university bachelor degree, and then now he's studying the master degree. I'm doing an MBA, and we have definitely so much stuff to share about with you guys. So thanks for tuning in this podcast. We would love to share more information next time when you're tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave a like or comment your 2 cents, or even share the podcast with people you probably have the same interest. It will help us build a bigger community and also grow the channel that will unite all the international millennials out there internationally. So stay tuned and hope to see you next week. Have a great one.
See ya.